Hey, Fitzy here, back at it again. Look what I got. I got a short 9-inch. That's 49.5 inches wide. For a little project I'm starting, a little drag racing project. I ran into some issues when I made it. We'll go over all that. I'll show you how I made it. Stick around. Alright, the starting of a new project. What do we have here? What we have here, I got a set of 15x8 centerline knockoffs with a set of 28 10.5 slicks, Mickey Thompson ET drags. I got a set of them there. The back spacing's key on that here for the car I'm putting them in. Then I have a set of 31 spline shorten axles. The rear end is 48.5 inches, I think it's 50. No, 49.5 inches wide with them axles. 31 splines. I have an old 8-inch forward housing with small bearing, because these are small bearing. And I have a rear end 9-inch out of, one to say, early 70s Lincoln. And why I know that, because it's coil spring and it's large bolt pattern. I think that's a 28 spline POS unit, I'm not quite sure. But all I'm after on this here is the actual housing itself. I'm going to be taking this housing, because it's the stronger housing, because of the sides. You can tell, like a lot of 9 inches looks like this one here. It got the small ends on it. This one here is built off on the sides more. I got a tendency to call them a truck housing. They came in a lot of Ford pickups and vans and stuff like that. But they did come in cars as well in the 70s. Now it's more of a 70s, late 60s, early 70s housing that you could find. It's stronger. So my plan is, I got, and also I got this Beers 31 spline center section with a 31 spline full spool in it. I had a choice of gears. I'm not sure what I'm going to go with now, 355s maybe, or a little bit less. I'm not quite sure, I haven't decided on that yet. I'm building an 1/8 mile drag car, so let's get this started on this now. So my plan is here, I got to clean all these off. And I'm going to cut off the ends of these here, so I won't need these, I won't need the axles, I won't need the center section. I just want this for the housing. I want this one here, this is an old 8-inch housing. I want this because it's small bearing on the ends, which is the same as what is on this axle here. So I'm going to cut these ends off here and use these for that bearing. I want them for that. And I put it all together and build a rear end out of it. So that's the start of a new project there now. Few of you have asked me about building rear ends. Now, I'm not getting into ladder bars or coilovers or 4-link setup on this. I'll go over that as I'm putting the rear end together, explain you when is the time to start adding in brackets, because the setup that I'm going with is I'm just going with a simple leaf spring setup. I have a plan in my head. I've been thinking about this car a long time, so I want to build a simple little car. I don't want to have no big investment in it. I don't want to have to go out and buy a backload of parts to finance it, to try to make it work right. I've done research on it, and leaf springs can work, and I've seen them work. These axles and the center section I acquired off a close buddy of mine. They're old race car parts off of one of his old cars. I done work for him. He gave me exchange for parts. The slicks were given to me. They're just dummy wheels. Tires, I mean, like, you know, they're wore out. Another close friend of mine gave me them. The wheels I purchased a couple of years ago. They are the original wheels that I had on my 68 Javelin back in the mid-80s. I managed to hunt them down and find them again. I bought them wheels brand new when I was probably, let's say, 18 years old, and they're still around. I have a soft spot for centerline wheels. I have a set of matching front runners for that as well. So let's get started now. I'll take this all apart and clean it up and see what I got. People often wonder how you can tell the difference between a 9-inch and an 8-inch Ford. Well, on a 9-inch Ford and an 8-inch Ford, you can take all these bolts off with a socket, okay, all the way around. But on a 9-inch Ford, there's two. There's one here and one here that got to be taken off with a wrench. You can't get a socket on it. That's how you can tell. So anytime you crawl up underneath the car, look for these two bolts, and that'll tell you if it's a 9-inch or not. Because if you can get a socket on it, it's an 8-inch, and if it's you can only take, especially this bottom one here, if you can only take that off with a wrench, it's a 9-inch. These are never easy to get off with all the studs in them. After doing some research, after finding out now that it's a 28 spline track lock, it's a good center section. It's a pods unit, and it's got 275 gears in it. Here's the tag that was on it, right? 275 gears on it, and this here one here basically tells it what it's out of. I can't find the L. I can find the MGC, but I can't find an MGC-L when it looks it up online. So anyway, I'm going to hold on to the tag with this center section and put that in inventory and keep that for Wendy's Mustang. So now let's get into building that 31 spline setup. Here's what I got done now. I turned around now and I got this here all mocked together to make sure I got everything figured out. It's exactly 49 inches from there to there. So that's the overall width of it into the unit like this. So I got this one here now. This is the old 8-inch Ford. I hang on to these for the bearing ends, okay? A lot of times you can machine these down and you can cut them and there's a sleeve inside of them and you can pop them out and put them in. You can buy them as well. You can buy these ends. But one thing about a Ford 9-inch, and I'll show you on this one here, is right here on 9 inches, they're just slipped inside there. The inside diameter of that pipe is the same as the outside diameter of that pipe, and that just slides inside there. Now, what's interesting here is that the inside diameter of this pipe is the same as the outside diameter of this pipe. So all I'm going to do is very simple setup to make. We used to do this years ago. We used to use Granadas and Mavericks. They had long and short axles, and we used to take the two short axles and do this with them. We take the two short axles and make up a rear end. The pinion would be off center a fair bit, but it doesn't interfere with the drive line. It's only when it's the pinion angle affects it. My Chevette, you pictured here, is that's what that had in it. It had what they call two short Maverick axles, is what I used to call them. And the rear end was all made up in the back of it. And the rear end, I think it was like 53 inches wide, outside to outside. So it was great for when you're building little hot rods and putting stuff together. So, and that's how we built them rear ends. And I'm going to do the same process here. It's simple. Don't need no specialty tools. All I need is small bearing ends, because that's what these axles are. These here are small bearings, right? You can get large bearing and small bearing. And where this is small bearing and this is a large bearing housing, it makes life a lot easier, because now I can just cut this off. I'm just going to limb this off here and slide that on over the end of that here and bolt it on. I can just slide that inside this here with the center section in it and just weld the ends on it. Now to cut a straight line on that, simple little trick, piece of paper. I don't need the whole thing. So I'm just going to turn around and take this here now and tear it in half, because I know I got one for each side. All you got to do is to take the piece of paper. Okay, all I got is a bit of black tape, that'll do. Anyway, all you do is you got a straight edge on your piece of paper, you wrap it around your pipe, and you just line it up so it lines up on the edge again. Tape it on. Simple as that. you got a straight edge. All I did, I went around and I put a line mark with the grinding wheel on it. So now when I rolls it back out of the way, I got a line all the way around there. It's all square. So now I'll just go ahead and I'll just chop that off. There you have a perfectly straight cut line all the way around. That's straight all the way around there. Straight enough. But there's my bearing. Now I got the side axle seal in there. I got to pop that out because them axles are bigger for than what the 8-inch ones were. So I'm going to pop them out there then. And then all I'm going to do is I'm just going to bolt that on right there. Okay, here's what we're into. I got the axle slid into the center section again. It's a long and a short axle. So the short axle goes on this side in here. If you look in there, you can see where the ring gear goes. That will be the short axle, and the long axle passes right through the center section rear end. Some rear ends, this rear end, I just realized too when I took it all apart, this one here had the same length axles left and right, so the pinion was off center from factory in this one. So anybody discusses it and says, well, you can't have the pinions off center, have the two same length axles. Some of the bigger Fords had it, trucks, and this one here, even though I just went up and measured the two axles that come out of it, and they're both same lengths. Usually they're about 4 inches in the difference, and that offsets the pinion. So in doing so, when I measured up, I measured from this hole here out to about right here, 1.5 inches in, because I got to leave room to put bolts in here to slide in from behind when I welds the tube on. So I got 16 inches over here, and I got about 14 inches over here, which I got to cut from these holes here, from over here to 14 inches, was about right in the middle there. And 16 inches is right on this line here. So I got to cut these brackets off now and clean up that area there and mark it and cut it. One of the things about this is like you're going to find like there's nothing precision about this. You don't need no fancy tools for this. I'm just using a grinder and a MIG welder. That's all I'm using. A few markers and a bit of paper for straight lines and stuff like that. It's simple to do. We've been doing it for years. It was always hard to get the right width rear end in cars, and a lot of the passengers' cars came with a long and a short axle. So if you swapped out two short axles, you could always shorten the rear end up to get more room underneath your cars. So it's just an old hot rod trick that was been done for, I'd say, since the 50s, since they invented the 9-inch. A lot of these brackets are only welded on the outside, they're not fully welded on. All you gotta do is just loosen it up, give it a few knocks with a hammer, and it should come clear. Brute force and ignorance. out. I've done that much shit around years. Nothing fancy. You often hear me say that? Nothing fancy. Well, it's not fancy taking that off as long as I don't damage the housing. These brackets are no good to me, so. Now I went ahead and I got it marked here. That's where I got to cut it off on this side, which is 16 inches from this alignment here out to here, which will bring it to about here on this piece of pipe. And over on this side here, from these two holes here, which is these two holes here, out here 14 inches, which is right here. So with all this stuff on in the way here, I'm not going to worry about cleaning it up right away. I'm just going to turn around and rough clean that off there. Because one thing about doing this, like that could be cut on a 45 and it's still all going to go together. Because we're sliding, that other pipe is going to slide way into here somewhere. So what I'm going to go do now is I'm going to go ahead and get the grinder down. I'm just going to lop them off right there so I can get rid of all that excess on the ends. So then all I got to do is just clean up my two ends. Well, now look what I got myself into. See the way that's shaped there? Most of the rear ends I've cut up over the years were out of trucks. This is probably one of the first ones ever taken out of like a Lincoln. What they do is that spring perch, which is here on the floor. When they mount them to the car, whatever way they're mounted, I think it's like this here somehow. Well, anyway, when they're mounted to the car like so, they flattens out the top of the tube, look, up back to right here. So when you're looking at it here, you can almost see it, look. You see it drops down right here. And that's all flat along there. Focus, focus. Here you go. It's round there and then it drops off here and it's all flat. There's no way I'm going to be able to make that work. And I'm going to have to go down to get another rear end now. And what I got to do is I got to cut about that much off the tube. And leave it all together because right about here is where that flat spot is to. And it's not going to work. Well, really the flat spot's about from here to here. Is what it is. But that's it. Trials and tribulations. I never seen that coming. But I've thought about it for a bit. I found my way around it. I just got to go down and my other 10 or 15 9-inch housings I got down there. I got to go down and find a good one with good bearing ends and cut the ends of it. That's all you can do. Anyway. What I'm going to do now on both sides, because it don't matter. The other side's the same way. I'm going to come back to where it's not rolled and just chop it clean off. And then I'll figure out my lengths from there. I'm after the center section more than anything else. People might say, why don't you just shorten up the stock one? No, I wanted this heavier housing because I might put a brace on the back of it later. I don't know. Where I'm running leaf springs, I don't see a lot of leaf spring cars running them. So maybe it's not a thing that I'm going to need. If I was doing 4-link or ladder bars, it's a must because she'll bend the rear end on us. I've repaired a few of them too. So anyway, I just want to cleave that off there now on both sides and start from scratch. There we go. I got them all cleaned off. Now, if you look at them now, it's actually round now. So it's a lot better that way. It's if I had known it from the beginning, I would have cut them longer. It was my mistake. I never looked at it because she had the spring mounts on it. It's a common occurrence. All the truck ones the tubes are not bent like that going out the outside. It's usually the cars with the coil springs and everything in them. And I should have thought about it some more. I should have cut up the rear end first before I cut up that one. But as you can see, it's almost like when you lay it there now, that's pretty well where it's going to be. When you look at it, it's pretty well right on the end of it there and pretty well close to the end of it there. Let's go down to the basement now and have a look at my 9-inch stuff and see what we can find. Alright, looking through them all, sized them all up. I was going to use these because they got the spring perches already on them and setting them all up, but I'm unsure about where I'm going to have the spring because I might move it inboard a small bit more because I am putting leaf springs on this machine. So I got this rear end here with no spring perches on it at all, so that way I can save them ones there. These are all decent rear ends. It's just that some of them, the outer ends of them are really bad, like right there. You can see in the shadow how bad that is. So I've got all these along walls, so I'm going to put one of them to use now anyway. I'm going to take this one here, the grey one, the first one I decided to take, and haul that out and cut that one up. Okay, after sizing up a bit more and figuring it out, this here what I can make of it will slide inside that there about that much. I think it should be fine. I think I should get away. I just got to take my time welding it. I went and checked on a couple of other axles I had, but the tubes are too big. And they're not getting into cutting up any more of this. They're not getting cutting that back up there. So the plan is now, I was going to clean this up and I'm going to mock this all together and see what it looks like. Because both sides, it seems like they're going to go inside about to here. Somewhere, about to there. And I think that should be plenty for me to run a bead around that there to weld that on. Because it's all the R's, when they're welded, right? Straight. Because when you weld the ends on, they're only about that long, right? When you weld the ends on, they're only in about that much. These capped ends. So they're not in a lot. So I'm just doing the same process, but in here, right? Just got to size everything up. There's a little, where's he at? Right here. Oh, can't see it. I'm in my own light. Here it is. You can see it there now. It's the where they made the pipe, and I got to grind that off now so I can get it fit in there and clean up this edge here. And I got to clean up the ends of this here so that fits in there. But if you look at it and just size it up, see, look, it's almost the same size. Look. It goes in, there's a snug fit, but it goes in there. That's why they built a lot of the Fords. A lot of the rear ends, they just slid inside of each other. As you can see, it's done here, see? That's just slid inside there and then ran around it. And buddy, I'm telling you, not pretty. Right? Anyway, clean that up. Let me show you how snug this is, okay? Square it up as possible. There's a snug fit. That's all you do with them, look. Just slide them inside there and see how tight they fit, look. Now these here, these two upper bolts here, if they're parallel across here, will be parallel with the top of this here. I haven't really got that done yet, but when you look across them this way, that there will be parallel to this here on both sides. But no, there's enough there to fit it in there on both sides. I gotta bolt this up now and get it all fitting together there. Bolt it on there so that holds that tight. Make sure she's the right width that I know is what it's supposed to be, and I'll measure it up, and then that'll be basically next they'll be starting to welding it. But no, I got myself out a bit of a jam there. I thought I was in a bit of a pickle, but it worked out. Now I got it all ready to weld up. I went and cleaned up and around here and got it all ready to weld. I went out here and I bolted these on, snugged them up tight so I can draw the bearing right in so it's seat right in here. That's key, because if you start welding this here and this starts to bend, if this is not bolted on, it'll want to push itself off and it'll throw everything off. And besides that, if you're bottomed out on the axle inside, and the bearing is not fully seated here, and then you weld this tube on, there's an issue. So you got to make sure that the bearing is fully seated in this here. Now, in the case of 4-link and ladder bars, I touched on it. I said I was going to do it. The problem I got here now is where I cut this off here, because this would have been out here somewhere. And because of that dip in the thing and everything, I had to do it this way. So what I'm doing here now, if I was going to do this with 4-link, would be a bit of a tangle. So what I would probably best do, I'd probably replace the tube from here if I was doing that case. But if this was a regular truck housing and this tube was good, it never had the indentation in for a coil spring, and I cut it off here and I slipped it into here, out to here, right? This section here, your 4-link bars will be about here somewhere. Usually your 4-link bars or your ladder bars are measured from here in, right? So I'd mock this together with the axle and everything in it out here, the way it is here, and this section to be welded would be out here. Wouldn't weld it, don't go to welding it. All right, I'd mount my ladder bars, because they slides on over my ladder bar brackets, and put them, they're usually measured from the outside face inward, and then you know your distance between the two of them. Weld them brackets onto the housing first before you weld your outer ends. It will warp the housing, okay? It will move it. So there's enough play in these here to adjust it for the brackets. Weld the brackets the same way. Don't run full passes. 1 inch is the maximum I'd run on a pass, and I'd cross from this side to this side. I'll show you when I weld this here. Do the same process for welding on the ladder bar brackets or the 4-link brackets. Right? I've made a number of rear ends, and I've always done all my bracketry for my 4-link and ladder bars before I weld my ends on. That's the last thing you do, is weld your ends on. In the case of what I'm doing here, this is a leaf spring car. So I'm going to be putting a leaf spring perch in here, which is not going to be an issue. Okay. And all I did was I tack welded opposite to each other, and I'll keep doing it that way, because when you weld this side here, this will want to draw up, pull towards you. So when you weld back down here, it'll want to draw back down. So you'll keep doing opposite of it as you're going along. So now I'll let that cool down. I got the other side welded, tack welded on, and I'll go on and I'll start running beads. Same process. About 1 inch. I'll flip it over. I'll just keep checking my axle, spinning my axle, making sure that's good. Oh, that's good. I'll go on to the other side. I'll keep jumping from one side to the other, so I'll give a chance for it to cool down. If there's any difference, you'll feel it. lot of moving around. You'll save yourself some headache. So I'll just keep doing that. I'll go around the other side and I'll keep going. As you can see, I'll just run a 1 inch bead. That's done. Nice and stronger, nice good penetration and everything on it. And I'll keep rotating it around. I'll keep checking to make sure all this feels good. Everything feels good there so far. And I'll go ahead and I'll weld all that up. So there you have it, all welded up. Some people may look at this and say, Tony, you're only using a little 110 welder, you should have a heavier welder and all this type of stuff. I've been doing this stuff for a long time. I have a race car here I'm showing you. This Chevy 2, we completely built this car from scratch. Full tube chassis, roll cage, the whole 9 yards. Built it, I'd say, 12 years ago, I think it was. And this car's raced hard every single season. I keep going looking at the car and everything is holding up good, and the whole car was welded together with a 110 MIG welder. It's got a lot to do with your penetration and knowing you've got your heat in there and you're getting good penetration. You can actually see that I'm actually melting the actual axle here. So I got lots of heat in it, right? You can tell a lot of times when you're welding, you can actually see the edges of your weld. If you can see like a line, you're not getting good penetration. If your weld is there and you're welding and it just flows, the heat flows into the steel and you got no lines that you can see, it's hard to explain. I'll have to show you that sometime. But if you can't see that line and it's all flowing nice, you got a good heat range, right? No. But anyway, that's the start of a project. I'm going to be starting soon, but I figured a few of you asked me about shortening 9 inches, so that's it. The process is the same on pretty well all of them. Some, if you're just going to replace the ends, it'll be the same process, right? If you're just going to put the end caps on them and cut the rear end off that way. I explained the ladder bars and the 4-link. Any brackets that you weld on this now, make sure the axles are in it and just take your time welding it. Too many fellas warps up rear ends because they put way too much heat in it. You'll be surprised at how much these housings move when you put heat in them. I can guarantee you it will bind up, right? But anyway, that's it for now. Hope the tips were good, and until next time.
Represent the other side. Once they even it up, we're going to see two competitors come back to represent the teams as they are both short one member each. We're going to have